In the early 20th century, the attitudes and policies regarding equality were reinforced by a Supreme Court decision, Plessy versus Ferguson. In this case, the United States Supreme Court issued the doctrine of separate but equal, which legalized segregation and prevented the full promise of the Declaration from being applied to African Americans. May 31st, 2021 provides an opportunity to examine that promise and reflect on the work still to be done as the nation remembers the Tulsa Massacre 100 years later. Like many communities in the early 20th century, Tulsa was segregated. In 1921, it had more than 100,000 residents, 10,000 of which were African American. On May 31st, 1921, Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old black shoe shiner, needed to use the restroom. Because of separate but equal, the only restroom Dick was allowed to use was at the top floor of a nearby building. Upon stepping into the elevator, Sarah Page, the white 17-year-old elevator operator, screamed. Upon hearing the scream, someone called the police and Dick Rowland was arrested. Sarah Page knew Dick Rowland, and upon his arrest, she told police nothing happened and did not press charges. However, the newspaper spread the story that something happened to a white woman that involved an African American man. Mobs of white men gathered near the courthouse where Rowland was held, while groups of African American men arrived armed to defend Rowland. Tensions flared and a shot was fired. 10 white men and 2 black men were dead, and the men who had arrived to defend Rowland retreated back towards the Greenwood district. The white mob followed. The Greenwood district was burned to the ground by the mob. The mob was supported by men in airplanes, shooting and, according to some reports, dropping bombs from the air. By the end of the massacre, on June 1st, 1921, more than 1,000 homes had been burned to the ground, leaving 10,000 people homeless. Historians and witnesses estimate that about 150 people had been killed. Property losses exceeded $30 million in today's dollars. The Greenwood district took 10 years to rebuild. Black Wall Street eventually breathed again until the end of segregation, legally allowing blacks to live, work, and shop where they pleased. Ultimately, the massacre was one of many events throughout the late 19th, early half of the 20th centuries, evidence that the founders' promise that all men are created equal had a long way to go.